In this video, we'll try to connect everything together and make our blog build automatically through circleci. Whenever you publish an entry from Contentful or you do a normal commit. But before doing that, I would like to add some CSS to my blog to look nicer. So I've gone ahead already and added some CSS. If you go to the layout and then see index CSS, then go all the way to the bottom, this is what I added. It's just basic CSS. So to see the result, we need to go here to our UL, which is the list of blog posts, and then do class name, and then call this blog post. And then once we save, and by the way, it's the server is still running, that's why I had the auto refresh. Okay, so now we have this kind of a grid thingy, but this is a blog post I added, but the publish date, supposedly, if you go to Contentful, it should be October 18th, 2013. So it should actually be in the bottom of the list. We can solve that using sorting. So we need to go to our index page that lists all the blog posts, and then we add the sorting in there. We can do easily this via GraphQL. So this is the filters we have here, and then we can just add another parameter which is called sort, and the sort accepts the fields. So you can actually sort based on multiple fields, but for now we'll just sort basic on the publish date, and then we have the order which should be descending, just like that. And then we save, and then go back to our server, and we need to build again because the query needs to build again. And then if we refresh, everything should be fine. And then there, like as you can see here, the old blog post is actually on the bottom of the list. All right, so this is looking good. We can now start configuring our circleci. So first thing to do is to create a folder called circle. So we can just do a folder called circleci, and inside of that we will have a config YAML file, and then we go here, and then here. First thing is we tell circleci that we want to use the new shiny version 2, and in here we tell it about our jobs. So the jobs, one will be build. So this is the build. We want the build to only run when we are in master. So any experiment you want to do in a separate branch, and you don't want the circleci to deploy to your website, or maybe you want to deploy to somewhere else. So, and then all the new builds in circleci are based on Docker images. So we configure our image. So we say image, and then circleci, and then node 7.1 or 7.10. And once we configure the Docker, we tell the build process how to do the steps. So first step would be checkout. This is predefined in circleci, and we want to do some caching, so we don't need to actually rebuild everything from scratch every time. So we do restore cache, and here we need to pass in two keys. First one is the key based on the package JSON. So we just wanna the checksum of our package JSON. And we need to pass in a fallback key in case there isn't any already cached items, which is actually very useful, because the first time we commit this, nothing will be found there. So we give it this dependencies, and once we're done, here we run our first command. So we do run, and the neat thing is we can actually name every step we do in here. So here we can do, for example, install dependencies, and the command in there, obviously it's npm install or yarn, whatever you're using. And we need to save our cache. This is to tell circleci to save the cache. So path is here. We can do node modules. So we tell circleci to save the node modules, and then we give it the key. Actually, here this needs to be 2 spaces back. So the key will be v1 dependencies, and then the checksum of package JSON. And now we need to run tests. So since we don't have any tests in here, we can just do a simple echo like no test. So echo has the exit process with a number 0, so it will be considered as successful. And now we need to build our Gatsby website. So we need to define another run step, and this will be named build, and then the command that we need to run is npm run build, which is specified in our package JSON. After building, I would like to install the AWS CLI, since I will be deploying to S3, so I'll be using the AWS CLI. So the step will be named install AWS CLI, and the command is, since this is multi-lines, we can just do pipe and then do sudo apt-get install python pip. And the reason we are installing Python is because the AWS CLI is depending on Python, and the latest version is always in the Python pip. So, and then here we need to install our iOS CLI, and after we have that, here I obviously forget about the column, and then here I need to deploy to production. So the name is deploy to S3, and our command will be AWS S3, and then we need the sync in there, and then we take the folder public, and then it's S3, and then the path of our bucket. So I have a subdomain called preview my website.net, so I'll be deploying there, and then I want to delete anything that I actually deleted before, and of course I need some cache control. This is really nice for our static site, so images and so on, and we don't want the browser to load them every time you load the website. So we will cache them, and after that this is an optional step, but since I have CloudFront on top of my S3 bucket, I need to invalidate all the caches in the CDN in there. So before doing that, I need to enable the CloudFront feature in the AWS CLI. So we can do this through this command. It's called AWS configure, and then set preview.create validation true. So that's the command that we need to use, and it's called create invalidation, and this will trigger what's called invalidation in CloudFront to delete all its copy through all the servers and then get a fresh one. And then now it's time to start the invalidation. So here we can do create or start CloudFront invalidation, and then the command will be AWS CloudFront, and then you get the idea, create invalidation, and then we need actually to pass our configuration as JSON. It's the easiest way I found out. And then I'll be copy pasting this station because I actually can't remember all of it here, and then boom, this is all the JSON. I can actually explain it a little bit. So for creating the invalidation, we need the CloudFront instance. So every CloudFront instance has like this kind of an ID, so you get it from AWS, and then here you tell it to clear the path, like the main path and start. So this means like delete any reference or any cache for every file in there. And from there, we actually are done in the YAML file. So we can just save this. And then I have somewhere the syntax error. Duplicate mapping key. Yeah, that's fine because I need that. Yeah, but maybe this is my JS linter somehow is picking this stuff up. Yeah, now we're done. What we need to do is define this CloudFront instance as a command line var in circleci. And one thing actually here, after, like if you're project is public. After this validation is created, actually the CLI will spit out a JSON that contains the instance of your CloudFront. This is okay because you still need also other credentials to create invalidation. But if you want to hide all of these logs, you can just simply redirect the errors and the std error and std out to the dev null. So this way it will run the command, but any output will be just ignored. So no output after this, which is a nice trick to do. Circleci provide actually a nice tool to verify your config YAML before even push it to the repo. So we can actually do circleci config validate, and then we give it the file, and it should tell us that okay, our config file is valid. So that's nice. For now, we need to go to circleci, and then we add our project. And our project is actually in here, and it's called Contentful, a Gatsby Contentful website, which is this guy in here. So we do add project, and then we go to our site and click setup, and then here this is the project. So we need to push everything in here, and then we call this add CI. First I need to add everything and then commit, and then we hit push. Okay, all is good. If we go here and do start building, it should pick our configuration. So let's give it a few seconds. You can see here it's going through the steps that we defined. So first is installing the dependencies. This will take some time as it's the first time doing this. So I'll speed up the recording a little bit until we reach the next step. Okay, now it failed because it's actually expecting some command line vars that I need to add in there. And if we go to our Gatsby config, you can see it's expecting these two environment vars. So let's do that. So we need to go to settings, and then environment variables, and then we do add. This is the space. So we go here, this is our space, and then we paste in here, and then we add another variable which called token, and then we go to our space APIs, and then get the token from here, and then we add the var, and if we go back, and then hit rebuild. And that's done. Now it will use the AWS CLI to deploy to S3 bucket. And of course it fails because I need to add the S3 credentials in here. So first, let me go to console.aws. So I go to the IAM. In here I go to my users, and then I go to this user and go to security credentials, and I get my access key. And then I go in here, and there's actually the AWS permissions. I put in my access key, and then this, I save that, and we go back to our build and then rebuild again. So I just realized that we don't need any CloudFront and validation here because how I did set up the S3 bucket is it has no CloudFront instance on top, so it's just pointing to an S3 bucket. After this, if I go to my preview website, you can see that I have my website here ready and it's deployed. Next part is actually to go to first we need to disable this CloudFront and validation. So let's go to the code and to our config, and then we just delete all this part. And then we add everything, and then we do a commit. And we can push that. Okay,